Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. By now, most of you have probably had your first crack at the raid. If not, you should be doing that in the next couple of days. So while you're watching me fail at a few of my attempts here, I'm going to go through some of the tips and tricks that I picked up with my first raid to help you get some better scores on the board, both for yourself and for your guild. Now, the one thing that I did pick up from some of our guild members is they just weren't sure about the difficulty level. We had a few players that had some very good teams that simply maxed out tier 1 and got that 100,000 points and posted that result. Now, once you've selected your team, before you start the battle, just above the button you will see a little circle with a number in it. That is your difficulty level. Now, if you're not sure how the raid really operates, don't start with your best team. Maybe put in your second best team, even third best team. You can always start on level 1, and your goal is that 100,000 point mark. If you can max out tier 1, then you know that that team is much better than that level. So what you want to do is don't bank those points, go up to tier 2. You want to try that again and beat that 100,000 point mark. The more points you can put on, the better rewards that you will get personally, and you add more to the total of the guild, so that way you can get some of those better chests down the line. Now, if you are using your best team, regardless of what that is, just the team that you've invested in the highest levels, most gear, best abilities, that is your best team. Start with level 3. You want to be trying to beat that 300,000 point mark. If you can do that, then you know that you're going to be better than tier 2. And that's probably where most people are going to have their best team at the moment to get those best results. Now, if you're not beating that 300,000 point mark, there could be a couple of things happening there. Sometimes it's just the whole random nature of the way that that bomber works. Sometimes it works in your favor, sometimes it doesn't. So you can have a couple of attempts just to see what kind of points you're able to get out of them. But if you do find you're getting absolutely demolished, you can always drop back to tier 2, post a good score close to that 300,000 point mark, and then bank those points. Now, the overall strategy of the raid really surrounds that bomber. So what's going to happen as soon as he takes his first turn, he's going to get a stack of Don't Rush Me. Now, what that means is that once he gets that stack, you basically can't hit him. So all of your attacks should just be your basic attack aimed directly at him, because every time he dodges an attack, he is going to add an extra stack of Don't Rush Me. That will add an extra 10% chance of him dropping the bomb when it's his next turn. If you get to 10 stacks, you're guaranteed that he's going to drop that bomb. It doesn't always happen. I've had situations where it's up to 90% chance that he's going to drop it, and he still manages to throw it at me. If you do get hit by that bomb the first time around, just forfeit the match, start again, because it's really going to set you back. You just need the odds to be in your favor a little bit, just to try and get some of those extra points. Now, the one thing that we did discover works really well is attacks that have an assist. So you do have some characters, even on their basic, they can call one of their teammates into attack. Sometimes you will also have some of your special moves that do call others to help you out. Each person that assists will also add another stack of Don't Rush Me, which is very helpful when you're trying to build the odds in your favor. Please note that this doesn't include tag team moves. So some of those ones, say like with Eladin and Elra here, where they can help each other out in trying to attack the same enemy, that still counts as one attack. The other thing that doesn't make any difference is characters that have multiple attacks, such as Lomian, that can hit 6 times. It will still only count as one stack. It's actually for this reason that the Road to Rivendell team works really, really well, because the hobbits love to help each other out. This is a completely free-to-play team that you can build up. A lot of players have already started doing that for the Gardener's Journey. If you do have them built up, This is the perfect place to use them. As soon as that bomber gets that don't rush me, make sure everything is focused on him with basic attacks, and trust me, you're really going to build that up very, very quickly. Just one thing to note if you are using the Isengard team, when you are focused on the bomber, he does dodge every attack, which means you will never get any healing for your team in that time. So there is a chance that your team can be pulled apart just while you're focused on that one character. So as you can see, the whole raid doesn't just evolve around trying to get that perfect drop that takes out the whole team by the bomber. You've got a whole bunch of other characters there that can throw spanners in the works. They can taunt, they can provoke. If you get one of them while the bomber is active, you really have to take him out quickly, or otherwise you're going to depend on 10% chance of that bomb landing on its own team. So if the bomber is not armed, you really need to start picking apart the other characters around him, because besides the fact you need them a little bit weaker to make sure the bomb takes them out, if you do have an opportunity to take someone out, take those chances, because you have less opposition trying to attack you. You're going to last a lot longer in the battle. Then when those moments come along that you can perfectly time that bomb, then take advantage of that particular game mechanic. Posting big scores in this raid is more based around survivability than anything else. So when you're putting this team together, you really want someone that can hit those single targets really well, because if you do have someone taunting, you got to take them down quickly. Also, if they can dispel those boons, that is really going to help as well. Having that AoE damage, so someone like Gaza that a lot of people have been working on since the start of the game, if you have him really well developed, put him in your top team, because he is really going to do a lot of damage and put a lot of points on for you. If you don't have Gaza leveled up, that's fine. Any character that has good AoE damage is always going to be helpful. Another one that you really need to have in there is at least one decent healer, maybe even two depending on who you've got in the team. Survivability is extremely important in this phase of the raid. The longer you can survive, the more points you can put on. It's that simple. Another scenario that might come up during the raid that sometimes confuses players is when you get more than one bomber on the screen at the same time. The strategy that you want to use there is look at their turn meter gauge and find out which one is actually going to go off first. So what I would do is target the one that's going to go off second, try and either reduce his hit points right down, or maybe even kill him if you can, so that you're only dealing with that one bomber. And then when he starts to get those stacks of don't rush me, you've only got to focus on him. Hopefully you can take him down. Maybe that bomb will take out the other one as well. If he survives that, maybe you've got enough time to try and build up a few stacks on the second one and get those extra points out of him. But it can be a very dangerous thing to happen. So if you can take him out completely, then that's just going to be easier for you to deal with. Now, the final tip that I'm going to give you guys that is very, very important in getting the best scores is simply patience. You don't have to bank the first score that you get. See what your teams can do. You'll get an idea of whether it's just the RNG of the battle that's beating you, or if your guys just aren't quite geared up enough for that particular level. Try and take on the highest level that you possibly can. See how it works. See what you can get out of it. If you can do level 3 and you're getting above that 300,000 mark, at least you know you're on the right track. For the first couple of raids, it probably won't be a bad idea if you do bank them once you get past that 300,000, but then you kind of know exactly where you're at and where you might be able to get those better scores down the line. Even with my elves, I failed so many times getting around that 150 to 200k mark on points. I just knew that if I could keep going and get things happening in my favor at some point, that I was going to be able to post a better score. I probably did somewhere between 25 and 30 attempts but there was this one run that I just managed to put together really well and ended up getting 718,000 points out of it. That was the real difference in my runs overall. I was able to get over 1.1 million total from my 5 runs just by having that little bit of patience and not just accepting the first score that I got. Now everyone's going to be a little bit different on how deep they can really go into their roster. You may have some teams that just struggle to even get 1,000 points. Don't worry about that. Just focus on your best teams for the time being, because that's what's really going to get you those points in those first few raid attempts. You can always develop those other teams down the track. You just don't have enough resources to try and get 5 teams up and running and getting those massive scores just yet. From our first attempt at the raid, the teams that did the best, obviously Elrond and his Rivendell team do really well. We all know that was going to happen. But for the free-to-play teams out there, Road to Rivendell is definitely a team that you want to have a look at. They are very effective in building up those stacks of Don't Rush Me on the bomber. Definitely have a look at investing in them. Rohan also seems to be posting some pretty decent scores. Another free-to-play team that you can invest in. If you don't have Ealdred, that's fine. You can always sub in a couple of other guys just to fill that team out if you've got another healer there somewhere. Isengard, Misty Mountains, and the Goblins all seem to be doing pretty okay as far as secondary teams are concerned. There are some decent scores there. We don't really have anyone in our guild that is heavily invested in Mordor, so if you do have someone that's posted some good scores from Mordor, let me know in the comments below. I'd be interested to know how they do. Another one I'd be interested to see once we get all these characters introduced would be the Haradrim. There could be some opportunities there for them to do pretty well if they can punch out some damage. Time will tell. So to sum it all up, pick the difficulty that's right for your team. Make sure that you're not just relying on that bomber to do all the damage, but when those opportunities do arise, definitely take advantage of the points that he can dish out. The other one is 100% have some patience. You don't have to post the first score that you get. If you do have a little bit of a restriction on time, make sure you let your guild know that you're just going to have to do a couple of quick runs, because I can see some of the guilds being a little bit more vigilant on these types of things and may target you to be removed from the guild if you're not really contributing as much. So make sure you're always in contact with your guild, trying to get better and find out what's working for everybody else, so you've got your own focus for what team you could be working on so that you can contribute the most for your own points and for the guild. That's it for this one, guys. Don't forget, like and sub, you know the deal. We've got plenty more Heroes of Middle-earth coming your way. Don't miss out, and we'll catch you in the next one.